Hey, Bobby, how do you get to the chase?
You know where they race modifieds? Start there.
Then you'll go past a lot of trucks.
Okay.
What am I, your tour guide? Beat it.
Easy, Kevin. Want to take home the title? You gotta get to the chase first. NASCAR 2005 Chase for the Cup. Rated E for everyone.
Just follow me.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
Good evening, folks. It's me. It's back after our small hiatus due to technical difficulties. I was supposed to be back last week, but I done screwed up, fucked up, whatever. Long story short, halfway through the podcast recording, apparently I kicked my cord and unplugged the microphone and lost about 45 minutes worth of recording. I had like an hour and a half long podcast recorded, and I ended up losing about half of it. So, just got finished watching the Ford EcoBoost 400, and gonna be a quick one this week, or try to keep it quick. Go through basically the Miami weekend and all my misadventures this past weekend. Sorry about not getting to the Phoenix one there, just technical difficulties. Anyways, let's just get to the big one first. Cup Series at Miami. Joey Logano is your champion. Was able to get around Martin Truex Jr. with about 12, 13 laps to go, and went on to pull away to about a 2-second advantage and won. Truex had a good long run car, but Logano was just better on the short runs. Harvick and Busch also led a bunch of laps, but they really Busch was banking on pit strategy at the end, and it sort of went his way, but he didn't have a car strong enough to compete with the other guys. And Harvick, I think, got a little bit of damage towards the end. Wasn't able to compete with Truex and Logano. If it had gone green without that Suarez spin, Truex might have been your champion. He was in position to take the lead from Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch still had to pit. Everyone else didn't. And it looked like Truex was going to probably win, but then, of course, the caution came out. Probably not the most popular champion we've had. It's probably up there with Kyle Busch with probably the biggest fallout champion-wise we're going to see. For kind of similar ways, both kind of similar rough and tumble, do anything to win drivers, have sort of gotten themselves a reputation, per se. And a lot of people wanted to see Joey lose it after dumping Martin Truex Jr. For the win at Martinsville. And everyone thought Truex, in his interview, said he won the battle, but he ain't going to win the war. And, he didn't really put up much of a fight trying to race Joey clean. And that was that. I will say, it's not like last night's champion. Logano's been just really consistent this year. Yeah, this is only his third win this year. But the guy had 26 top 10s this year. Yeah, 3 wins, 13 top 5s, 26 top 10s, and 1 pole. We click on standings. And internet starting to act slow. And so basically, he was the number 3 guy in stats. Harvick had the best stats out of everybody. 8 wins, 23 top 5s, 29 top 10s. Busch was next with 8 wins, 22 top 5s, and 28 top 10s. And then Truex had the 4 wins, 20 top 5s, so 21 top 10s, and then 4 poles. But Logano was next in on top 10s, and he probably would have been your, I think, top 3 in regular season points battle. We look down here, and he would have been 4th. Yeah, way it would have played out, he would have been 4th in points. But these 4 guys would have been your top 4 guys in points. Of course, Kyle Busch would have won last week. Had it locked up last week due to Harvick's penalty. However, Harvick's had 2 penalties this year. If I let me see this. 2018 NASCAR Cup Series. I think he's had 2. 12. And that is not the right. But I think Harvick had a big penalty at the first Las Vegas due to the window deflection. And then, of course, he had... Yeah. So, anyways, as I go back... But Harvick is your... Busch... Logano is your champion. The sliced bread. Truex ends up 2nd in points. Really, that was kind of my choice. As much as it would have been cool to see Harvick and Busch so dominant in the win column take home the win, I was also leaning more towards Truex just because it's a good story. This is Furniture Row's last race. Kind of wanted to see him go out on top, and they almost had it. It's very close, but and it would have been fit in as Barney Visser missed it last year because he had a heart attack. It was like right before Phoenix or something like that, and then was actually in attendance this year. But yeah, there's that. Pretty clean race. The MBM 66 car finished. Finished on the same lap as the 97. Really clean race. Only had a couple incidences that brought out the caution. Clean weekend. Well, first caution came out at lap 162. That wasn't stage related. Eric Jones got into the wall a little bit, knocked crush panel out of the car. Timmy ran it over, but that, of course, obviously had their caution for debris. And then about 32 laps later, Kyle Larson battling for the lead, running that patented Kyle Larson line. Just got a little too much. Got into the outside retaining wall just a little bit, cut the right rear tire, kind of ripped the fender half off. Debris, had to throw the caution again. And then, of course, the incident with Brad Keselowski getting bumped by David Reagan and getting into Danny Suarez and spinning Suarez out. A lot of different leaders this race. So Logano led the most lap. It was a very a lot of comers and goers. Just looking at the lap leaders of this race, like Logano with 80 laps led, of course, the most. Truex with 20 laps led. If he had probably 20 more laps to go, he probably would have chased him back down. Harvick with 58 laps led. Yeah, I think he's the number 2 in the lap leader count column. Busch with 21 laps led. Pole sitter Denny Hamlin 41, and then Larson with 45. Larson was he always seems to do this. He just gets running that Carl Larson line, and he just gets a little greedy and ends up. Seems that he's his own worst enemy with these long races, unfortunately. So basically, race, Logano wins, Truex 2nd, Harvick 3rd, Kyle Busch 4th, Keselowski 5th, Matt Kenseth, and probably his final career start, finished 6th. Real good run for him in the Roush Fenway number 6. Really, they seem to have got, when he's in the car instead of Bane, they've got it running halfway decent. So I imagine when Ryan Newman gets in that car next year, they'll run probably about the way Matt's been running. Probably a little better than Ricky. Probably be a fringe playoff contender. Probably not a top 10 guy, but probably the bottom 6, I would say. Chase Elliott in kind of his breakout season topped off, finished 7th. Boyer finished 8th. Almirola 9th. Kurt Busch rounds up the Stuart Haas top guys in 10th. Again, their notables, Jimmy Johnson in Lowe's last race, running a throwback to his rookie paint scheme, which they actually ran from 2002 to 2005. Yeah, I don't know what they did with the colors on that. They definitely, the blue was just fantastic on that car. Popped a lot more than the original car. It was just a fantastic looking car. It's just a damn shame we only got to see it one race this year. But Jimmy did all right, but not ran like he's been all year. Kind of finished 14th. Still got a new crew chief next year. New sponsor and ally. So hopefully a fresh start for the 7-time champion. And not the beginning of the downward trend that we think we might be sitting in right now. Ryan Newman in his last race with Childress finished 15th. Jimmy McMurray and possibly his last start finishing 18th. Now Ganassi did offer him a Daytona 500 ride. But there's still the big question mark: who is going to be in that car next year? We don't know. AJ Allmendinger and probably his final career start finished 19th. He's probably got to go to run sports cars full time. Is what it's looking like. See what notables. Rookie of the race was Bubba Wallace, finished 21st, but William Byron is the rookie of the year, finished 24th. Let's see who else. Not gonna see. And quote unquote BK's last race. JJ Ailey finished 32nd. Of course, it's worst kept secret. It's a front row entry. They've been running for the most part out of the BK shop, just that equipment. But this was a front row Ford this race, like at Talladega. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, pretty much it. But yeah, everyone finished finished the race. 18 cars on the lead lap, and then the guy who finished last, Regan Smith, actually had a brake fluid leak at the start of the race during the pace laps. Ended up missing about 20 laps at the start of the race. Ended up finishing last because there was no attrition. Everyone was running at the end. And he only finished 27 laps down. So yeah, pretty calm race. Yeah, really calm. I think it was a little bit cooler this weekend compared to how it's been the last few years. Instead of like mid-80s, it's been kind of hovering around 70s. I think that probably led into some of the cleaner races we had this weekend. The last couple of years has kind of been hot and sticky, and then this year it wasn't. So I think that just the cars had more grip and they were just handling better. Looking at your, let's go through the top 20. I'm just gonna go through the top 10. The points: Logano first, Truex second, Kevin Harvick third, Kyle Busch fourth, Eric Almirola fifth, Chase Elliott in his breakout year, 3 wins, ties for sixth with Kurt Busch in his last year with Stuart Haas, Brad Keselowski eighth. Kyle Larson, despite no wins on the year, finishes 9th. And Ryan Blaney quietly in a solid 10th place in points. Your non-playoff stand-ins: Kyle Busch would have locked up the championship last week at Phoenix. Kevin Harvick would have finished second, 54 points out. Truex would have finished third in points. Logano would be fourth in points, 189 points back. Now, interestingly enough, Kurt Busch would have been fifth in points, 205 points back. He's kind of been there with Logano, just his consistency, just not good winning all the time like the big three were. He did get a popular win at Bristol though, so there's that. Keselowski were to finish 6th. Larson were to finish 7th. Chase, despite his 3 wins, would have finished 8th. He's just been really, the first half of the season was not very strong on his behalf. As they got the grips on the new Chevy nose, him and Larson, they were to finish 4 points apart from each other. And they were to finish 7th and 8th. Boyer, despite his 3 wins, would be 9th. Just hasn't really kind of feast or famine this year. And Blaney still would have been 10th. That was Cup. Let's move on to Friday night trucks and the Ford EcoBoost 200. I personally thought it was kind of a boring race. I was actually there, pitted the Zero truck of Ray Cicarelli. Ray did pretty good. For those who don't know, Ray races with Crohn's disease, and I try not to screw up this word. Races with a colonoscopy bag. So yeah, kind of these long races kind of don't really play to his strength. He does race dirt modifieds normally, but still trying to break into NASCAR. He actually did pretty good. Finished 25th. Like the truck, he took it. This is a truck he bought from Jennifer Joe. It was an old truck. That was a burp. Tastes like pizza. He bought it off of Jennifer Joe. Attempted Talladega, didn't make the show. Went to run Bristol with it. Weren't gonna have it done in time. So then they tried running Talladega, didn't make the show. He took it over to Premium, had them set it up for him, and ran halfway decent. But wasn't for wave rounds and stuff like that. He was running right with the 45 and 22 most of the night. The Nice trucks, which were and the 35 and 3, which have much bigger funding than them, but just kind of faded at the end. Still finished 25th, good for him. Yeah, only 2 cautions for stages. Anyways, going on to your championship battle, I was really kind of rooting for Johnny Sauter just because he's been so dominant this season. He would have had the championship locked up for a race or 2 by now. Unfortunately, it was not to be. Brett Moffitt came on at the end of the race, put in a heck of a battle with Noah Gragson, and won the race, won the championship. That would have been Moffitt's, I think. Yeah, 6th win on the year. 2 straight the end of the year. Kind of really tops off. If Sauter didn't win the championship, Moffitt would have been my other choice. I believe both of them put 6. Excuse me for a second while I wait for this to load. Yeah, Brett Moffitt and Johnny Sauter both with 6 wins. Unfortunately, Moffitt's when he hasn't been winning, it's just been really inconsistent. Sauter, for the most part, has been really. If he hadn't been winning, he was top 5 in everybody to death. So, anyways, Moffitt won. Second place, Noah Gragson finished third. Got passed at the end by pole sitter Grant Enfinger, who was really strong tonight. And then your other contender was Justin Haley. The 2 GMS trucks weren't really strong. Haley finished 8th, and then Sauter finished 12th. Just not a real telling night for GMS. How the chase played out, Moffitt would have been your champion. It was your champion, 6 points. Well, with that fantastic mustache too, 6 points over Noah Gragson. Justin Haley, in probably his last race in the 24 truck before he moves on, would be 3rd in points. And the crafty veteran Johnny Sauter would finish 4th in points. Looking at the top 10 rundown real quick, Moffitt is your winner, led the most laps, 59. Grant Enfinger finished 2nd after starting on pole. Gragson finished 3rd. Stuart Friesen with a good finish, 4th. Sheldon Creed kind of came on late in the race. The showstopper, they call him. Would finish 5th in, I think, his 4th start of the year. Yeah. If he runs like this, this would be a, I gotta turn that off. Yeah, this gives me hope for him. Definitely ran a lot better than what anything Cody Coughlin did in that truck. So, yeah, I think Sheldon Creed would probably be him and Harrison Burton would be your 2 competitors for Rookie of the Year. So anyways, Moffitt, Creed, Matt Crafton finished 6th. John Hunter and Nemechek, and probably Nemco Motorsports' last race as a truck team, in 7th. Sadly, they just don't got the funding to continue on. Looking like John Hunter is going to have a full-time Xfinity ride next year. I'll get to that in a little bit. That was just a hot rumor this morning. But the truck team, they were doing all they can to get funding together and just trying to keep the doors open. It's just not there. John's ready to move on with his career, move up. And it's just, unfortunately, it looks like the team's going to go ahead and close its doors. Now, Nemechek still has his manufacturing business on the other side of the building. That remains unaffected by the race team. Justin Haley finished 8th. Jesse Little, another good run, finishing 9th. And then Ben Rhodes, 10th. Harrison Burton finished 11th. Sauter, 12th. Todd Gilliland, he really kind of struggled at the start of the race. Was running in like 20th first half of the race, but they worked on it, got him up to finish 13th. Myatt Snyder, 14th. I believe Myatt was your Rookie of the Year for this year. Tyler Dipple, 15th. Ross Chastain in the 3rd Nice Motorsports entry, finished 16th. Corey Roper, good run for him. Kind of struggled at the start of the race, but played his cards right, made the right changes, finished 17th. Jeb Burton running for Bones in the 30 truck, finished 18th. And then Brendan Poole running for Next Gen Motorsports, Teddy Brown, finished 19th. And old Jordan Anderson, the independent racer, finished 20th. Yeah, that's pretty much. We had a couple close calls for caution. Robbie Lyons cut a tire, got into the wall, running 33 for Josh Rayum. That was, they had Chad Finley helping him out. Had a real fast truck. Unfortunately, finished 27th after making multiple repairs to it. And then Chris Wyndham had got into the wall a couple times at the end of the race and finished 24th. And as we move on from the truck, or round up the points real quick. Top 10 real quick. Moffitt 1st, Gregson 2nd, Haley 3rd, Johnny Sauter 4th, Grant Engfinger 5th, Matt Crafton 6th, Stuart Friesen 7th, Ben Rhodes is 8th, Mike Snyder is your Rookie of the Year and 9th, and Todd Gilliland is 10th. Non-playoff standings, Johnny Sauter would have locked it up a couple weeks ago. He would have been your traditional champion over Noah Gragson by 66 points. Grant Enfinger would have finished 3rd in points. He has just been real consistent this year. Stuart Friesen 4th. Brett Moffitt would have finished all the way back down in 5th. Like I said, he hasn't been inconsistent at all this year. He's either been winning or struggling in the teens or DNFs. Same thing with Justin Haley. He kind of got off to a slow start to the year. He would finish 6th in points, tied with Matt Crafton. Ben Rose would have finished 8th in points. And, of course, Mike Snyder, Todd Gilliland remain the same. Go on to the Xfinity Series. Oh, and then how did I pit on Friday? All right. And then last pit stop, I got hit by a tire carrier, knocked my feet out from under me, landed on the jack, got up, finished pitting the left side of the jack, and sat down on the wall, and I was like, whew. Sat there for a minute or two, and then when you're pitting a car, you got a lot of adrenaline running through you. You just one-track mind, trying to get things done. Well, I sat there. I was like, man, the adrenaline started to wear off. It's like, man, my hand's throbbing a little bit. Well, I took my left glove off and immediately sight of blood. Ended up when I landed on the jack apparently caught me just right. And basically, I got a 3-inch gash on my ring finger. Basically, from the top of my finger to about three quarters, 2/3 of the way down, and just kind of picked the skin and just kind of peeled it back. Visited the care center after the race. Luckily, it wasn't deep. They said it was mostly superficial skin. Said stitches probably wouldn't have been too much. So we ended up just really wanting them to clean it. That was having a big wound like that in my finger. So I ended up just having to put some butterfly deals around it and cleaning it and some gauze. And so that was my first pit misadventure this weekend. Like I said, first. Now the Xfinity Series, the Ford EcoBoost 300. I spent the weekend working with Carl on the 40 car this week. Carl swapped numbers around a little bit. Chad's been really good in qualifying in his composite car. Same thing with Timmy. So Carl had a lot of faith in them in the qualifying. Carl was running the old Dodge, so he wanted some little buffer on points on him. Ended up working in his favor. Got into the wall first practice a little bit, beat it out. Got him out second practice, and practice halfway decent. Looked like we were gonna be right on the edge of qualifying in on time, and then went to make his first lap of qualifying, and I guess the car settled. I guess pulled too much shock shim out of it, and car hit the track, went up the track, got into the outside wall again. Really tore up the right side this time. Pushed it behind the wall. Luckily, we were the last one in on provisional, and it unfortunately knocked the 45 and the 55 cars out of that would knock Josh Bilicki out. It did work in our favor though, as he would have been chasing us in points because Chad passed him at Texas points wise. So unfortunately, we didn't blow our little advantage at Phoenix last week with the gear issue, and so fortunately, that helps us going into Daytona next year as just one extra little cushion for our provisional. Anyways, meanwhile, the car was wounded coming to race time. Carl didn't ride around. Unfortunately, wasn't as competitive as it probably could have been. Ended up finishing 33rd, but he finished. That's all we were really hoping for. I ended up fueling for Chad in the 66. Had a pretty quick car. Probably could have finished right around 27th. Unfortunately, got into the outside retaining wall at the end of about 10 laps to go, and tore the car up a little bit. I guess they ended up scoring us not finishing. Kind of unfortunate. Still, this was just another really only 2 cautions, and both of them for the stages. Like I said, there was a couple instances that probably could have brought up the caution. Chad getting into the wall, 10 laps to go, and then during green flag pit stops, Garrett Smithley spun on the pit road, but no cautions came out for those. Just a really clean race. And then who ended up winning? Green flag pit stops. Tyler Reddick came out on top and made the changes, and Cole Custer, who dominated the race for the first 95 laps, could not get to him at the end. Tyler Reddick is your champion. Cole Custer is second. Daniel Hemrick finished 4th. Wasn't really a factor for much of the night. And then Christopher Bell really kind of struggled. I think he ended up getting a pit penalty at the end of the race. Would end up finishing 11th. Really kind of shocked everybody. Everyone thought he was going to be the favorite to win it. And then him and Cole Custer, I think, was everybody's picks. But Reddick just put together the good second half of the race. Won his second race of the year, third career win, and his first championship. No one really expected Tyler. I certainly didn't. I would have thought his teammate Justin Allgaier was the one to pick, but Allgaier the last 3 or 4 races hasn't really been a factor. Yeah, this would have been a wacky points battle all year long, and not just counting the playoff. My thoughts on Tyler as the champion. If you don't remember my earlier episodes talking about the summer, Tyler really had bad luck and struggled mightily during the summer. He got that win and then just a lot of wrecks, a lot of mechanical issues during the summer months, and I don't think. See, this was just such a wacky year for the Xfinity Series because I don't really. Here's the thing: Reddick would have finished 6th in points, well outside the points battle, but the year was just so wacky. I don't think it really offends me as much as it does of other people. And let me say, there's a lot of people who are not happy with this championship. So basically, your final playoff points standings at the end of the race in the season. Tyler Reddick as your rookie champion, second straight year. The 9 car for Junior Motorsports has had a champion as a rookie. William Byron last year, and then Tyler Reddick this year. Reddick also becomes the first Xfinity Series driver to win only the first and the last race of the year. Reddick wins the championship by 5 points over Cole Custer. Daniel Hemrick finishes third, 7 points back, and Bell, with his struggles, would finish 14 points back. Tyler Reddick is your Rookie of the Year. Kind of shocking the world because everyone kind of expected Christopher Bell to be the Rookie of the Year, but because he goes by point standings now, and instead of the Rookie of the Year points that they used to do, which was like 15 races minus your two worsts, I don't know, or your best and your worst, I don't know. It was a weird setup they did for like 30 years, but then recently years they changed it so it's by point standings at the end. And Reddick is your Rookie of the Year, kind of shocking everyone, because everyone thought Christopher Bell with like 7 wins. Yeah, 7 wins this year, and here's the thing: as good as Bell was, he wouldn't have won the championship with the traditional. That's the crazy part. But anyways, Elliott Sadler in his probably final career start, retiring from full-time driving. Probably I think he's done for good because he's got a young family. And he wants to spend more time with them. He finished 5th in points. Matt Tiff 6th. Rumor is Matt might be going to Cup racing in a 3rd front row entry. So I don't know how much weight that rumor has, but there is some. I also heard some talk of RCR cutting down to 2 Xfinity cars next year. So there is that. Justin Allgaier finishes all the way back in 7th in points. Cindric 8th. Brandon Jones 9th, Ross Chastain 10th. Now, if you look at your non-playoff point standings, you thought the playoff point standings were wacky and crazy. Daniel Hemrick with 0 wins would have been your champion by 8 points, only 3 points more than the playoff. One race dash standings. Hemrick would have been your champion over Cole Custer, who only had 1 win. Justin Allgaier, with his 5 wins, would be 3rd in points, 14 points back. And Christopher Bell, despite his 7 wins, would be 22 points back. And you can probably thank Kansas for that one. If Bell didn't wreck at Kansas, he probably would have been your champion in the non-playoff standings. It's just like I said, this has been a wacky season in the Xfinity Series. Yeah, it's been a really, and I'll eat crow. I'll admit I was kind of wrong. I didn't really believe in them limiting the Cup drivers in the Xfinity Series, but I think it worked to everyone's favor. It's given all these boys, by keeping them from, or the chase driver, or keeping them from the playoff races and the Dash for Cash races, it's given these boys plenty of time to stand on their own ground, and it's been a really fun year to follow this series. I've been a full-time in the Xfinity Series since the end of 2014, and it's just even without the playoffs, this would have been just a crazy season. The guy that won 7 races as a rookie would have finished 4th in points. The guy that had 0 wins would have been narrowly the champion. It's just been a wacky season. But anyways, wrap it up. I got stuff open up, but I don't need to. Also, we had 5 guys went home for the Xfinity Series at the end of this. Josh Williams running a third Mario Goslin entry in the 92 went home. Stephen Light in the 99 for Bobby Dotter went home. The 2 JP Motorsports entries of Josh Bilicki and Bailey Curry, and then Tim Vines in the 74 for Mike Harmon, trying to make his return in first time in like 3 years, I believe, in this series. But anyways, wacky season to follow this year. Reddick is your winner and champion. Cole Custer second. John Hunter Nemechek finished third. He led second most laps, 52. There's a lot of question marks of what he'd be doing next year. Would he be possibly in a second Ganassi ride next year? The hot rumor this morning is that he would be in the 23 car full time for GMS. GMS apparently is teasing some big announcements for the Xfinity Series and future of their series. So yeah, this would be a very good fit for John Hunter, because that 23 car has been pretty has been a pretty competitive car this year. They've gotten a couple wins between Spencer Gallagher and his win at Talladega, and I believe Chase Elliott has gotten a win. If I remember correctly, if I look at no, Chase did not get a win, but he finished second at Pocono. Probably should have won at Charlotte until he ripped the transmission out from the car on a restart. And then AJ Allmendinger almost should have won at Watkins Glen and kind of cost himself the win at the end. But it's been a real competitive year for that 23 car this year. So, yeah, that'd be a good fit for John Hunter. Daniel Hemrick. And there's a guy on the crotch rocket. Just making a lot of noise outside. I don't know if the microphone picked that up, but making a whole lot of noise. Daniel Hemrick would have been your champion despite 0 wins, and if we had no chase. His last race for Childress. He's, of course, moving up to the Cup Series for Childress next year in the 31 entry. Austin Cedric running full-time next year. Money Lion taking over half the season. His sponsor, he finishes 5th. Ryan Preece in his last race for Gibbs finishes 6th. Of course, he's going to the Cup Series as well, running the 47 car for JTG Daughtry Racing. Allgaier finished 7th. Brandon Jones 8th. Michael Annett 9th, and I think it's only his 3rd top 10 of the year. And Matt Tifft, who's possibly also going Cup Racing, in 10th. Look at notables. Chase Briscoe stayed out of trouble for the 60 car, finished 13th. Sadler in his last career start, finishes 14th. Ross Chastain in his last race for JD Motorsports before moving full-time to Chip Ganassi Racing next year in the Xfinity Series, finished 16th. Spencer Gallagher, and probably his last career start. I'm sure you'll probably see him in a race or two in the future, but he's taken over a managerial role within GMS. He finished 17th in probably his last career start. Let's see who else we got here. That's really all notables I got after that. Oh, and then Landon Castle drove for Morgan. Was a last-second call-out for Morgan Shepherd to get his car in the field. Really needed to get in the field after his struggles the last few weeks. Morgan really didn't feel he would probably gonna make it, so they put Landon in the car, and Landon went out and qualified 24th. First time that Morgan has made the second round as an owner, so good for them. And like I teased earlier, I had a misadventure in pitting this one. Final pit stop of this race. I was fueling this one instead of jacking. Fueled my car. Went to pull out and didn't realize that apparently when the tire changer pulled the left rear tire, it fell directly behind me. It didn't roll to the wall. So I went to step back and fell backwards and kind of twisted around. I caught the wall with my with the can in my arm. Luckily I didn't break anything, but yeah, kind of got beat up this week pitting the car. Last race of the year. That just goes to top it off of the tire explosion at Texas. But anyways, that is the Wookie Automotive Racing Ramblin' podcast. I'm going to do something, because NASCAR's done, I'm going to do something a little different in the next few weeks. I'm going to break down the next 3 podcasts. I'm going to break down each individual national series. I'll probably start off, I haven't decided if I'm going to start off with Trucks or Cup. Probably do Cup first, and then Xfinity, and then Trucks. And then I'll do a Torn Series podcast before the end of the year. And then, of course, before we get to Daytona next year, I will preview all 3 Torn Series individually. I'll probably do one giant podcast before I leave for Daytona. It'll probably be a long podcast, but basically I will really hammer down all 3 Torn Series. They're respected, who's supposed to be in what car, entry list wise, and all that. But anyways, of course, I got an off week this week. I'm working to get after the struggles I've had the last couple weeks, technically wise, between the laptop and computer and internet at the house. I'm just hammering down, get some actual content out. So I know I've been promising it for the last couple of weeks, but don't worry, be patient. It's on its way. I got time to work on it now. It is here. Also, I will be doing some racing as well sometime in December. I don't know which event or which race weekend, but it is some road racing. So stay tuned for that. So anyways, this was the Miami Hangover podcast. Poor Kamikaze Games. That poor boy has lost his voice. But anyways, that was this week's Wookie Automotive Racing Ramblin' podcast. Next week, I'll probably completely break down the Cup Series for 2018. I'll probably go through each individual team, probably go briefly through each race. It'll probably be a doozy of a podcast, but stay tuned. Thank you for listening. This is the Wookie, and I am signing off.
Finished second and third. It's not going to be enough. Kurt Busch is the 2004 NASCAR Nextel Cup Series champion.